start talking while she finds a laser pointer. So I get the lovely challenge of keeping you awake after lunch. So hopefully everybody had a good lunch. So yeah, here's a little, you always have to start with a dad joke. Pharma or Harma? It's a little play on words, but let's go through a few things today. Okay, if everybody's thinking alike, then somebody isn't thinking. George Patton. And what have we experienced nationwide and worldwide this year? Groupthink, this mass formation. If you haven't listened to the talks of Matthias Desmet, please do. The man who does not read has no advantage over the man who cannot read. Mark Twain. So how much of what we experience with friends and society and family is, well, I heard and somebody said. What about diving into the data? So the question becomes, if you read the data, they don't want you to have that weapon. That it's dangerous. So here we are. Those of you that are here may have found us through the International Alliance of Physicians and Scientists. No problem. If you haven't gone to these websites yet, please do. We represent 16,000 physicians and scientists around the world who know what's going on. We're the data analysts. That's more doctors and scientists than are at the FDA, the CDC, the NIH, the WHO. So if you want real data and the declaration we've made to the world about what's going on and what needs to or not to happen, these are the experts. And we stand proudly for the truth. All right, if you're not looking, you're not going to find it. And that's been a big challenge this year, is we've been told, don't look. More forward, please. Other way. We're going backwards. Next. Oh boy, did we die? Is that all the slides we have? Forward. Scrolling. Okay, there we are. Okay, there we should be. So don't look. Don't look. There's nothing happening. There's no harm from anything. These are not the droids you're looking for. Forward, please. Okay, and here we are. Who in this room has heard about the Trusted News Initiative? That's too few people. Okay, if you have not, please look it up, and you will understand why you don't know what you don't know and haven't heard what you want to hear or haven't heard what we're sharing today. Microsoft, Google, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, CBC, AP, Reuters, CBS, News Canada, News India, News Europe, all got together and said, hey, we're here for election integrity. Okay, that's over. Oh, we're here for integrity of science. No information on the vaccines that's adverse can be shared. Okay? Anything that talks about early treatment, we're going to suppress. So the scientists of the world now work at Google, right? No, I told you 16,000 physicians and scientists have unified to say, But this is why it's not getting through to you. So look it up, study it well, and now you'll understand propaganda. And go ahead and read Bobby Kennedy's new book, like Dr. Corey said. All right, safe and effective, right? Sure they are. Super safe, super effective. All right, are they approved? How many of these shots are approved? Zippo zero nada. Would they have you think that? Nope. They'll have you think differently, wouldn't they? They're none approved. Oh, they're all approved. Your governor, your legislators, any employer mandating, any doctor recommending you get a shot is violating a code of medical ethics without giving you the option to or not to be in a medical experiment. This is the largest medical experiment on humanity ever. These aren't approved. These are emergency authorized. And any of these agencies that are compelling or forcing or coercing you into this, it's against all medical ethics, and it's not even legal by federal law. All right, how many people have seen these updates? Yep, so we know where we are. Almost 1 million adverse reactions in the U.S. This is a tip of an iceberg. Study done for the federal government by Lazarus Harvard 2010 showed that 1% of all adverse reactions are reported. So you can take these numbers and do with them what you will. You know, is it 10x this? Dr. Rose, Steve Kirsch have said it's maybe 30 to 40x this. So how many people were outraged when we saw Twin Towers fall down many years ago? Yeah. So should we be outraged when 6 of those towers fell and likely 10, 20, 30 times more? But we're not allowed to know that because of that Trusted News Initiative. Another excellent source, the Brownstone Institute, brownstone.org. Read every article there. This is directed by Dr. Martin Koldorf out of Harvard. Phenomenal aggregation of just about every paper you should be reading. If you want the truth, go read this. So all these interventions we've done this past year, this one's fantastic. Here's 400 articles showing that none of them worked. All right, there's the data too. I think you've seen this too. Top line, all those adverse reactions and deaths, all the deaths on the left upper spike, that's in the last 11 months. The bottom line with all that tiny flat red, that's all vaccines combined in the last 30 years. That's all vaccines on that bottom line. That's 1 year alone. Most of those deaths occur in the first 2 days. Yeah, this is at OpenVAERS, openvaers.com under the red boxes, and these are updated. So this is all the U.S. and U.S. territories reporting in. Here's WHO showing the same thing. That's all vaccines in the last 30 to 40 years. Each one, there are a number of adverse reactions, you know, a couple hundred, a few thousand adverse reactions. COVID-19, 1 year, 2.4 million adverse reactions, WHO's data. Safe and effective, right? Okay. This is a quote from me. I'm going to quote myself. When an unapproved drug therapy or vaccine is new and experimental, all adverse reactions and deaths should be considered to be caused by that agent until proven otherwise. And we're currently looking the other way and doing just the opposite. This is the French legal system, guilty until proven innocent. So we've rolled something out on humanity that we've never done before, and then we're using that Obi-Wan trick of these are not the droids you're looking for. So that's not fair. And with the amount of adverse reaction, how many people in the room know somebody that's had even a mild or moderate or severe injury? Okay, just about everybody. And I think the outrage is going to be even worse once everybody has a primary contact. But all of us know somebody safe and effective. All right, so what's the unsafe part? Okay, so we know the virus is a toxic virus. Does the virus exist? Can you culture it? Absolutely, it's real. It's a real virus. Does it cause disease and death? Absolutely. Do we know how to manage it if they would let us? Dr. Corey told you absolutely we do. But what part of that virus is the toxin, the spike? So we made a shot. We're going to give you some immunity. But what part of the virus did we choose? So let's stop a pandemic with a toxin. Great idea. So we know from studies the spike circulates in your body for at least 2 weeks. That was a Harvard study, up to 29 days in one subject there. But in a journal of immunology, these are big journals, for up to 4 months, the spike is circulating in exosomes. So when they say, oh gosh, they died 2 weeks after their shot, it wasn't the shot. Well, if you have a toxin circulating for 2 weeks to 4 months, really? I don't know, just asking. We know from some of Dr. Patterson's study, and I'm not saying, the shots are the only bad thing. COVID itself can be bad in many people, obviously. And in some individuals, Dr. Patterson's study shows spikes still circulating in our Pac-Man cells, our monocytes, for up to 15 months in some of those individuals. So a lot of what goes on depends on our immune health and our ability to clear toxins, clear viruses. And so what are we doing for our overall health? I'll get to that later. spike crosses our blood-brain barrier. It's a tiny little molecule. It can go a lot of places. So you get patients post-COVID with brain fog. That's the spike, causing inflammation, causing irritation. Guess what? So does the shot. You get tons of neurologic injury. And now that Pfizer's data is starting to slip out as forced by federal FOIA requests and lawsuits, it's amazing that in that first month of the Pfizer data, there were over 1,200 deaths. Now, any vaccine trial would be stopped after about 50. So early on in 1 month, we knew how many associated deaths were on their way, and they didn't stop it. And at the same time, there were like 20,000 neurologic injuries reported in the first month. Really? It's because the toxin is everywhere. It's like saying, okay, there's arsenic in this virus, but we're going to cure you with arsenic. And by the way, the arsenic didn't cure you the first time, so we're going to give you a second dose of arsenic. Dang, it's not working. Every time we need a booster of arsenic. That's the logic. We'll go on to the next couple. Here we go. Lung tissue. On the left-hand side, see all that blue? Bad. See, on the right-hand side, all those nice little air spaces. That's what your lungs and air sacs should look like. Now, on the left, that's not from the virus. That's just from the spike made by the shot. So we know the spike induces the inflammation. We know the spike induces the same damage the virus does because the spike comes from the virus. But let's just use the toxin as the cure. Man, okay. This just shows some vessels up close. This is from the Salk Institute. Right-hand side, nice smooth lines. Left-hand side, spike alone blows those vessels in your mitochondria, the powerhouse of your cells, apart. The heart. How many people think a beating heart is an important thing? I do. Okay. So up here on this side, okay, pretend there's a laser pointer. I'll just set that down now. See all the blue? Blue is bad. Blue is inflammation. Those are all inflammatory cells. See on the right-hand side, that nice pink and kind of spaced out, normal nuclei, normal muscle cells. See on the bottom right, all that blue? See the pale? What happens after tons of inflammation chronically? Scarring. How many people think it's a great idea to walk around the rest of your life with scarring in your heart? Yeah, me either. Okay? So there was a study that just came out just a week or so ago. There are markers we can look at in a lab, blood markers, that show how much inflammation, active inflammation, is affecting your blood vessels. And interestingly, so Dr. Gundry has patients he's followed for 6 to 8 years, and this pulse score, it's 9 different lab tests, measures the risk factor for cardiac disease or cardiac event in the next 5 years. So his patients that he's tracked for years, he took 560 of those patients that had gotten the shot, and they all had an aggregated 11% risk of a heart attack or a cardiac event in the next 5 years. That more than doubled after the shot. But guess what? Not only did it double, but for the next 2.5 months, it has stayed elevated and continues to stay elevated. And I got a message from a colleague in Florida, and she said, hey, I saw that study. I ran the test on myself and some of my vaccinated patients. Same findings. Some were in the COVID recovered as well, so I want to be clear on that. But we know that spike is causing cardiac damage, and it's upregulating a bunch of our inflammatory cells that should be quiet. That's highly concerning. Anybody heard about the world athletes lately? Drop and give me 50, but drop and don't get up for 50. That's a bad idea. And it's sad. And some Israeli researchers have looked all around the world, and on the soccer pitch, on the basketball courts. And I like what Dr. Corey said, last night when we were chatting. He said, when we finally see an NFL player collapse, maybe the world will wake up and watch. But we're so Americocentric, and we don't watch what's going on the football pitch in Europe. There have been more deaths, statistically significant deaths in players and coaches, and it's all been cardiac events. That just doesn't happen. Every now and then you hear that rare high school student, and that's usually a malformation in the left anterior descending artery, blah, 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 pathology stuff. But when you see them getting a shot and dying of cardiac stuff left and right, and in front of us, and the world is like, these are not the droids you're looking for. It's not happening. No, don't believe your eyes. Believe us. Nonsense. The brain. How many people want a functioning brain? Man, me too. How many people wish the media had a functioning brain? Yeah, me too. Critically important, the brain fog post-COVID. There's treatments for that. Post-shots, there's treatments for that. But no, there's not. Believe us, there's nothing you can do, nothing we can do. Be afraid, be doomed. That's all you hear. It's wrong. What we don't know. What we do know is a lot. What we don't know is even more. We don't know the long-term outcomes from these shots, do we? Nope. Do we know the biodistribution? Did any of our companies here in the U.S. do, where do the lipid nanoparticles go? How long does the spike stay around? Where does it land? 0. But, you know what? The people are good animals. We'll give the shots to the people before we do animal trials. Even though all coronavirus vaccines historically failed, and failed horribly. And they knew that going into this. You do not vaccinate against this family of viruses, ever. Ever. That's Immunology 101. I did PhD work in immunology. I know immunology pretty well. And there's certain families of viruses where you have proteins that are conserved, and you go, okay, we can make an antibody against that, and that's great. This one always mutates, and always will mutate. What about the ovaries? Oh, this is misinformation, disinformation. Oh gosh, it's going to affect fertility, right? Not going to affect it. These are not the droids you're looking for. There have been over 2,400 fetal demise cases this year, post-vaccine. That is more than all vaccines combined in the last 30 years. There's a study that was done in parallel with humans in rats in Brazil with the Pfizer studies that showed a 16% decrease in the implantation of the egg in the uterus. Hidden in a table. And of course, the conclusion at the end of the article is, we should continue forward with these shots are safe and effective. COVID is an inflammatory and a clotting disease. How many people have a doctor that doesn't know how to treat clotting and inflammation? It would seem most of America does now. Simple lab tests that we can do. This goes to some of that pulse score I was telling you about. We can tell when you have elevated clotting factors in the lab. These are things that every doctor should be checking. And if you have any symptom and your doctor says it's not the shot, have them check some simple lab tests. What about our immunity after the shots? Nothing to see here, folks. There's nothing going. Safe and effective. No harma, just goodness from pharma. But meanwhile, we know that our B and T cells are being altered, and more importantly, there's something called interferon. It's the first thing your body does when it gets an insult of a virus or some pathogen. It says, crank out the interferon. Let's ramp it up. But what seems to be happening? It seems to be dropping. This study was really interesting. It's out of the Netherlands. After the Pfizer shots, they said, we're seeing some concerning signals in the altering of your innate immune system. That's the Marines of your body. They're the first ones in. You got these little T cells all the time, your T cells, monocytes, dendritic cells. First signal of harm or an invader or anything, they throw a little hand grenade into the cell that's infected, blow it up, boom, gone, safe, good. Well, guess what? These shots tend to put that surveillance system to sleep. So there's some receptors on these cells, these toll-like receptors. They're pattern receptors. So they're always looking for pattern, friend, foe, pattern. And 2 of these, 7 and 8, they're responsible for keeping your viruses in check. We all have viruses all day long. And your body's like, yeah, we'll just keep that one in check. We're not going to let it overgrow, invade us. And there's 2 other ones that are responsible for keeping cancer cells in check. And guess what happens to those after the shots? I'll be darned if they don't go to sleep. So what are we seeing? Tons of mono, tons of herpes, tons of human papillomavirus, tons of other viruses. What about college campuses? Anybody hear of just huge outbreaks of other flu illnesses and common colds on college campuses, like Michigan a week or two ago, etc.? Huge. Are they getting forced to get a shot to come to college and coerced into being a human experimental subject in order to get an education? Yeah, they are. They are. And guess what's happening? How many people in the room want to walk around with a sleeping immune system that doesn't know what to do? Safe and effective. Study out of Canada, out of the Canadian governmental data. We seem to be seeing some immune suppression. But don't worry about it. We don't need to report it to the people. They don't need to know it. Safe and effective. What about an antibody? Everybody, you hear about this in the news. I told you about the innate T cells, the immune marines that you have. Your antibodies are kind of your delayed response. That your body makes an antibody, so when you get exposed to something in the future, those antibodies bind it, your body mops it up. Cool. A good antibody is great. Grandma had measles, grandma still immune to the measles. At 1918 flu, people 80 years later still had immune memory and antibodies to the 1918 flu. But guess what? If you form a bad antibody, you form an antibody, great, against SARS-CoV-2, again, with the vaccine. But guess what? The vaccine makes a spike antibody to an extinct virus. How many people are hearing about alpha and beta, circulating, or the original Wuhan, or the D614G? No, it's extinct. 99+% is Delta. Now there's a little Omicron that spells moronic that's going around. We can talk about that later. But if you get a shot and a bad antibody, it now becomes your enemy. And it can help the next variant of the virus that's just enough different Trojan horse into your immune cells and make your disease worse. So what's fascinating in the UK, if you look at the data, over age 60, the shots now have negative efficacy. What does that mean? It means if you got the shots and then ended up getting, they compared the cohort of the people that got shots and those that didn't. And if you got the shots, you had a higher chance of getting COVID with illness. A higher chance. And that's because the antibodies are enhancing the bad reaction from the virus. Oh goodness. So the virus binds to some important genes in our body. We have a very important one called P53. This is the guardian of your genome, and the S2 subunit of the spike binds to this. How many people have heard some random cancers clicking up in friends or colleagues? They tell me, misinformation, disinformation, yet I get oncologists calling me left and right saying, I'm seeing cancers I've been able to manage for 30 years of my career take off like wildfires now. That S2 subunit binds to this gene. You need this gene to suppress tumor growth. But, we did all the animal trials and proved it was safe and effective before using it on any human being, right? Oh gosh, it also impairs DNA repair. The spike, if it gets in your T cells, Anybody think it's important for our body to repair itself when it gets broken? Yeah, I think so too. But that zipper can't zip things back together in your DNA when the spike's there. This was in an in vitro study, and they said, don't worry about it, not the droids. Okay, yeah, so some other receptors where it binds, CD147. CD147 bound and stimulated can lead to cancer pathways as well. And then there's some other antibodies that are forming that are inhibiting the efficacy of it. And it's just more immune stuff here, but this one's kind of important. Guess what blocks the CD147 receptor? Ivermectin. I'll be darned, but it doesn't work. Nope, there's nothing for you. Yeah, we'll go, how long does your body keep making the spike? Well, there's a ton of studies showing that it's safe and effective and it turns off, right? Oh, gosh, there aren't. Okay. Safe and effective. So they're a therapy. What does a vaccine normally do? It gives you immunity. So let's see. If a shot works, your shot works for you, then I shouldn't be afraid of the people that didn't get the shot. But if it doesn't work, then I better get another shot. Which is exactly what Fauci said on November 12th. Hey, these seem to be failing. Go get a booster. Okay, dystopia. So what did the CDC have to do this year? They didn't have to do this, but under your nose they did it. They changed the definition of what a vaccine is. Yeah, look this up. This is fun. Yeah, something that just stimulates an immune response is now a vaccine. Great, that means vitamin D is a vaccine. Or if I go outside right now and eat a shovel two of dirt, I'm stimulating my immune system. That's as good as a vaccine, right? A vaccine used to give you immunity to a disease. What a strange concept. Well, our shots aren't working, and we've spent billions on them, and we're paying big companies billions to make them and force them into you and mandate you to be an experimental subject in the largest trial on humanity. They don't really give you immunity. It gives immunity to the manufacturer from lawsuits. So they don't prevent acquisition of the disease. They don't prevent transmission of the disease. They don't prevent disease. They don't prevent death. Sure sounds like a vaccine to me. And by the way, since they don't work, we better mandate it so that you can keep gainful employment and feed your family. Right? It makes sense, doesn't it? So whatever legislator is listening, or state governor or state or government official, answer me that, please. Antigenic sin. So if we get a shot and make a really strong antibody to the spike protein, guess what our immune system does? It says, I recognize the spike, I recognize the spike. There's the spike, I'm gonna bind it and stop it. But guess what it doesn't do? It doesn't, you're only getting one protein out of a whole bunch of proteins on a virus. So when we make a vaccine, it's supposed to mimic a portion of a natural infection. Well, this is giving you a hyper response to the spike, which is mutating and changing and failing, but your body doesn't remember the other things it's supposed to. So now, studies out of the UK said if you got your shots, you're not able to make antibodies against the nucleocapsid, the little thing that holds and encases the RNA of the virus. So we're committing a sin against our body by saying, we got a great immune response, but only to a little bit. And then they say, yeah, but look, if you get a shot, your antibodies go sky high. Yeah, to the wrong spike, to the wrong virus. Wonderful. Means nothing. It doesn't do anything. COVID recovered. I always like to ask, if you're willing, how many people have had COVID and recovered? Yeah, see, 50-60% of people, just about wherever I lecture now, have had COVID and recovered. Guess what? You have this wonderful antibody in your tears, your nose, your throat, called IgA. After you've had where does the virus enter your body? Those places. Where do you get your shot? In your arm. So your body preferentially makes an IgM and then an IgG antibody, but it doesn't make a ton of this IgA. Now you that are COVID recovered are blessed to have a bunch of this. So every time the virus comes in, your body says, bind it, clear it. Bind it, clear it. Well, guess what the vaccinated aren't making? I'll be darned. Something in the mucosa, in the eyes, and the tears, and the throat to bind and clear it. So what does that mean? How many people have heard the word breakthrough? Pretty euphemistic, isn't it? Why don't we just call it what it is? Failure. Like Johnny, you didn't get any question right on the test. Those were breakthrough inaccurate answers. No, Johnny, you failed. Tony, Fauci, you failed. Moderna, Pfizer, J&J, AstraZeneca, not working, folks. Gibraltar, 140% vaccinated. What does that mean? I'll tell you what it means. They got 2 shots because that counts as fully vaccinated. Then they rolled out the boosters, right? Okay, so they're 140% vaccinated. They're on to Booster Palooza. So they're on their second wave of Delta and have one of the highest per capita death rates in the world right now. So safe and effective, right? 100% vaccinated island. These are just simple questions. I mean, somebody can, any colleague that disagrees with me, bring your data, sit down for lunch, coffee, let's go over it on behalf of humanity. But answer me that. Failures in all these nations. Death rates are higher in the vaccinated than the unvaccinated. Case rates are higher in the vaccinated than the unvaccinated. In Belgium, 100% of the ICUs are double vaccinated. ICU patients. Safe and effective. So we're going to cancel Christmas there. There you go. There's your first Delta spike. Here's your second Delta spike. See that top golden line? That's 100% vaccinated. It's working, isn't it? Good job. Vermont. 76% of the deaths last month double vaccinated. One of the biggest outbreaks in the country recently. One of the highest vaccinated states in the nation. Same thing in Ireland, 99.5% vaccinated, one of the highest outbreak rates in the world right now. So here's an interesting question to every governor, legislator, federal official, world official. The vaccinated aren't making IgA. It's the wrong shot for the wrong virus. If you want to keep your job, you have to get tested twice a week to stay in my department and wear your masks that don't work and all the other things. But if you're vaccinated, we're not going to test you. Even though the vaccinated are carrying equal or higher viral loads than the unvaccinated because they don't have that little lovely IgA antibody binding it and clearing it. So you're being lied to that, oh, it's the unvaccinated, it's a pandemic and spread of the unvaccinated. Scientific hogwash. I would use a harsher word, but I'm in church. They should be separate but equal Title VII argument. If they are going to test those who have chosen not to get a shot scientifically, and this is a great lawsuit for any astute attorney in the room, everybody should be tested or nobody should be tested. That's not my opinion. That's science. Not the science, because I don't believe in that guy. But that's science. That's data. That's information. That is fact. Unassailable fact. All right. I'm going to have to go quickly here. I know I'm running out of time. Again, Brownstone Institute, read it all, send it to everybody, please. There's so many good articles from brilliant minds on that site. Yeah, okay, getting a shot in the middle of a spread. This is another thing you don't hear from your public health officials. You weaken your immune system after you get the shot. Anybody that chooses to get a shot, your body, your choice. I don't say get it, don't get it. I know it doesn't work, but it's your choice. But if you get it, you should pretty much isolate for 8 weeks. Because you're immune suppressed after you get it. You are immune suppressed. That's why we're seeing huge upticks after the shot, because people are, I got my shot, I'm good. No, you're not. Because your immune system, your broad natural antibodies all go down, your body's preferentially ramping up a spike, and now it recognizes nothing, not nothing, but most things. If you haven't watched Geert Vanden Bossche with Del Bigtree on the High Wire, this is the episode that should stop the shots around the world. This is the shot heard around the world right here. Watch it. Worth your time. About 40 minutes. Watch it 2 or 3 times. It can get a little complex, but at the same time, I think he's about 98% right. 2 or 3% that I don't even know. All right, Booster Palooza. Booster Palooza. Not working. Go get another. Go get another. Go get another. But you know what it does to your immune system eventually? How many people have had allergies in their lifetime or allergy shots? Yeah, I'm one of those allergy shots. What do eventually? You keep exposing the body to a little bit of the irritant that you're allergic to until the body says, I'm just not going to recognize that anymore. Let's make that peanut allergy go away. What happens if you're exposed chronically booster palooza to an antigen? Oops. Yeah, so along comes SARS-CoV-2, and away goes humanity. Because your body eventually says, I'm just not going to remember that anymore. Immune exhaustion. That's the whole concept behind allergy and immunology. Don't experiment on the children. All risk, no benefit. 99.9973 survival rate for the children. Dr. Macri out of Hopkins looked at every child that died from COVID. They had severe underlying conditions and risk factors. The children don't even have the TMPRSS2 and ACE2 receptors until puberty. They are at no risk. But we are willing to damage their hearts, to potentially downregulate all those receptors I talked about, expose them to other viruses. Are you kidding me? Fear is the real pandemic, and that's what we're overcoming. This is not about a virus anymore. It is about fear and control of your minds and your bodies, because this is a manageable, treatable virus, and we are going to harm the next generation. We are going to use them as human shields. When children have almost zero chance of being negatively impacted by COVID, but you sacrifice them for the greater good, may God have mercy on your souls, because we won't. Do not give this shot to the children. And there's some smart people around the world that are not us. Look at all these countries under age 30. Cut it out. We see the damage. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. So why are these government officials smart and ours blind? Willful blindness. Other countries see the damage and acknowledge it. Yeah, that's the answer in the back. Safe and effective. Follow the money. 42% of kids as of June had already had COVID. That was before Delta even hit. Delta was a wildfire. We saw how many people got it. That number's around 80+% now. And if you give a shot to someone who's already had COVID, you increase the adverse reactions. You increase the risks. You don't give a shot to somebody who's had COVID. You don't. It's scientifically inept and stupid. Big Bird is not real. Blood clotting and myocarditis are real. Propagandizing our children with peer pressure to say, get a shot that you don't need for a disease that's not here, for a shot that's not made for the virus that's present now, that can damage your bodies, your hearts, your brains, your fertility, your future, your soul, your life. Great idea. To vaccinate the COVID recovered is insanity. COVID recovered? Brownstone.org again, Dr. Paul Alexander, 135 articles versus CDC's one article that they made up that's not peer-reviewed, and they're like, look, the shot immunity is so much better than COVID recovered, 5 times better. They're measuring an antibody spike. They made up false data. They didn't peer review it. Meanwhile, the real scientists of the world have 135 articles showing the CDC's lying to you. I'll take 135 to 1 on a scoreboard any day. And it's even more than that now. Yeah, where's the public health message? That's the problem. There's no trust in public health because they haven't told you, lose some weight, cut the sugar, get some sleep, get your vitamin D levels up. Everybody in this room is low on vitamin D right now. You can run outside naked for the next 4 months. Don't recommend it. You might freeze off parts you don't want to freeze off, but you will make no vitamin D outside from the sunshine for the next 4 months. You have to be taking it right now. A little vitamin K2, magnesium at bedtime as well. Citrate, not oxide, it'll give you the runs. But you need to. It is the conductor of the symphony of your immune system. And it talks to directly or indirectly 2,000 genes in your body and turns them on or off. Says, okay, play piano, mezzo forte. Okay, up to forte. Okay, back down to mezzo forte. We're going to fade the symphony out. But you know, if your vitamin D is deficient, all those genes don't have that conductor. It's off key, out of tune, wrong tempo, and triple forte. That's a cytokine storm. That's what people die from. So if you're deficient in that, that should be public health message number 1 this year. And how many public health officials have said, you know, we're going to optimize the health of our nation. Here's some things we're going to teach you and help you do. No. Lock down, wear a mask, shut up, and get a shot. That is not public health. That is tyranny. And we are fighting medical tyranny. How did Stalin, how did Hitler, how did Pol Pot, how did Mao take over a nation? They took over the public health system. So if they're not teaching you, they're doing something else. Oh gosh, CDC's got a FOIA request saying, please, CDC, show us how many COVID-recovered individuals have spread the virus to another human. We can't show you any because we don't have any cases that we have seen that a COVID-recovered individual has spread a virus to another human. That's because of that IgA thing I talked about. So do the COVID-recovered need to be wearing a mask? Nope. Should the kids in school be wearing a mask? No. Dystopia. Next. Scientifically incoherent. To vaccinate the COVID recovered. Early treatments, Dr. Corey talked about it, a couple other colleagues will. Let us be doctors, we know what to do, and honor that Hippocratic oath. That is a sacred relationship that has been usurped by federal agencies that have broken the law this year. They have lied to us, and they are not looking out for your health. They are looking out for something different. And it's shameful. And our founding fathers would be turning over in their graves. This is our 1776 moment. We are a free people, and doctors should be free to be doctors. And they should be free to treat you with safe, effective medicines. And we're being hunted for sharing the truth. Countless complaints against my licenses. Any patient complaints against me? Nobody complains when you save their life. But plenty of political people from, I don't care which color, red, blue, purple, the virus is a humanitarian issue, not a political issue. But we politicized a virus. I like this one. Bad dream? Mainstream media? No. It's a good idea to be awake, not woke. And I think this room is awake. And are we going to sacrifice our children to the new healthcare system, Pfizer Permanente? I should hope not. This is in my daughter's wall. I was really proud of her. I was down at her college in northern Arizona last week. Security is mostly a superstition. It does not exist in nature, nor do the children of men as a whole experience it. Avoiding danger as a whole is no safer in the long run than outright exposure. Life is either a daring adventure or nothing at all. Don't live in fear. Live life. Remember to live life. Bring back joy, kindness, love, dialogue, listen. Let's be human again. Turn off the media sources. Turn off the news. Now that you know they're all colluding against you anyway, love the person next to you. Be kind to the person next to you. Be kind to your neighbor. And if they're confused, we don't need to browbeat them with all the data. Bring them into a circle of love and kindness and conversation first, and then gently share. And this is my colleague, Dr. Urso, who will be speaking to you later. Just is such a dapper dude. His wife always shares this picture of me from his modeling days. So anyway, I'll end there, and thank you so much.